Motorcycle dealerships across America are quietly closing their doors, not because people stopped riding, not because the economy crashed, but because the entire business model that has kept them profitable for 50 years just stopped working. In 2025 alone, over 400 motorcycle dealerships shut down permanently. Major franchise groups are consolidating. Small-town dealers that have been family-owned for decades are selling out or walking away. If you're paying attention, you can see exactly why it's happening. I'm Jimmy, and today I'm breaking down the 5 reasons motorcycle dealerships are struggling in 2026 and why this crisis is only going to get worse. Some of this is their own fault. Some of it is changing demographics. And some of it is technology and economics finally catching up to an industry that refused to evolve. Here's what's actually happening behind the scenes. Reason 1. The profit model collapsed. Let's start with the most obvious problem. The traditional motorcycle dealership business model is dead, and COVID killed it. For decades, dealerships made money on a simple formula. Sell bikes with healthy margins, finance those bikes at high interest rates, sell extended warranties and service plans, and then make recurring revenue on parts and service for years after the sale. That model worked when buyers had no other options, and when financing was the only way most people could afford a $15,000 motorcycle. But here's what changed. During COVID, people could not get to dealerships, so they started buying bikes online. Used bike prices exploded because new inventory disappeared, and private party sales through Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and CycleTrader became the norm. Buyers realized they did not need a dealership to find a good bike, negotiate a fair price, or arrange financing. Banks started offering direct loans with better rates than dealer finance departments. Suddenly, the dealership's role as the middleman became optional instead of essential. Then inventory came back, but buyer behavior did not return to normal. People got comfortable buying bikes sight unseen and having them shipped. They realized that flying to another state, buying a bike for $3,000 less, and riding at home was cheaper than paying local dealer markups. The internet made price transparency permanent, and dealerships that were used to controlling information lost that power forever. In 2021, roughly 42% of used motorcycle sales happened without a dealer involved. By 2025, that number hit 61%. Dealers are being cut out of their own market. New bike sales are not saving them either. Manufacturers are squeezing dealer margins to stay competitive. A dealership used to make 18 to 22% margin on a new Harley or Indian. Today they are making 8 to 12% on most models, and on entry-level bikes the margins are even thinner. When you are only making $1,000 selling a $12,000 motorcycle, you need volume to survive. But volume is disappearing. Reason 2. Demographics are destroying demand. Here's the uncomfortable truth the motorcycle industry doesn't want to talk about. The core customer base is aging out and dying off, and younger riders aren't replacing them in anywhere near the numbers needed to sustain the market. The average Harley-Davidson buyer in 2025 was 56 years old. The average Indian buyer was 54. The average cruiser buyer across all brands was 53. These aren't sustainable numbers. What happens when your core customer base is in their 50s and 60s? They stop buying new bikes. They downsize. They get health issues that prevent them from riding. And eventually they age out entirely. Harley-Davidson has been losing roughly 40 to 50,000 riders per year to age-related attrition since 2020. That's 40 to 50,000 people who used to buy bikes, buy parts, pay for service, and generate recurring revenue just gone from the market permanently. The replacement buyers aren't showing up. Millennials and Gen Z are not buying motorcycles at the rate boomers and Gen X did. Why? Student loan debt, housing costs, insurance costs. The fact that a decent used car is cheaper and more practical than a motorcycle. And frankly, younger generations just aren't as interested in motorcycles as a lifestyle. Riding used to be rebellion. It used to be freedom. Today, it is an expensive hobby that requires storage, gear, insurance, and maintenance that younger people with tight budgets can't justify. Dealerships that built their entire business around selling $25,000 baggers to baby boomers are now sitting on inventory they can't move. They're watching their customer base shrink every year, and there's no marketing campaign or financing offer that can fix a demographic collapse. You can't sell motorcycles to people who don't exist or can't afford them. Reason 3. Manufacturer decisions are killing dealers. This one's going to make some people angry, but it needs to be said. Motorcycle manufacturers are making decisions that protect their own survival while actively harming their dealer networks. They do not care because they have decided dealers are expendable. Let me give you some examples. Harley-Davidson has been aggressively pushing factory direct sales and online configurators that let buyers customize and order bikes without ever stepping into a dealership. The bike gets built, shipped to the nearest dealer for delivery prep, and the dealer makes a tiny delivery fee instead of a full margin sale. Harley is trying to capture more of the profit themselves while leaving dealers to handle expensive costs like real estate, inventory, and service departments. Indian Motorcycle flooded the market with too many models and too much inventory, then offered deep factory incentives that undercut dealer pricing. When you have factory rebates of $8,000 to $10,000 on new bikes, used bike values collapse, and that kills the trade-in market. Dealers get stuck holding used inventory they cannot sell because it is worth less than what they gave the customer on trade-in. BMW Motorrad has been moving toward factory-owned showrooms in major cities, cutting independent dealers out entirely. They have decided that controlling the customer experience themselves is more important than supporting the dealer network that built their brand in the US. Some Asian manufacturers are doing the same, exploring direct-to-consumer models that eliminate dealer markup entirely. Here's the really dirty part. Manufacturers are requiring dealers to make massive investments in facility upgrades, new signage, updated showrooms, and digital infrastructure, then turning around and undercutting them with online sales and factory incentives. It is like demanding someone renovate their house right before you demolish the neighborhood. Dealers are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on upgrades to meet manufacturer standards, then watching manufacturers pull inventory, reduce margins, and push direct sales that bypass the dealership entirely. Reason 4. Service departments can't save them anymore. For years, dealerships relied on their service departments to generate consistent profit, even when bike sales were slow. The service bay was the cash cow. A $120 per hour labor rate, diagnostics only available to dealers for modern bikes, proprietary software independent shops could not access, and a captive customer base that had no choice but to pay dealership prices for warranty work and complex repairs. But that model is collapsing too, and it is collapsing for several reasons. First, modern motorcycles are more reliable than ever. A 2025 Honda, Yamaha, or Kawasaki can go 30,000 miles with nothing but oil changes and tire replacements. There are no valve adjustments, no carburetor tuning, no constant maintenance that used to bring customers into the service department every few months. Bikes are so reliable now that owners can go years without needing a dealer. Second, the internet destroyed the information monopoly. YouTube has step-by-step tutorials for virtually every service procedure on every major motorcycle. Forums have troubleshooting guides written by experienced mechanics. Parts diagrams are available online. Owners realize they can do their own oil changes, brake pad replacements, and basic maintenance for a fraction of what the dealer charges, and they are not afraid to try because the information is free and accessible. Third, independent shops have caught up. Dealerships used to have exclusive access to diagnostic software and technical service bulletins. Now, independent mechanics can buy aftermarket scan tools that access the same data. They charge $60 to $80 per hour instead of $120 per hour. They are more flexible with scheduling, and they are often more knowledgeable because they work on every brand instead of specializing in just one. Fourth, and this is the killer, electric motorcycles are coming. Electric bikes have almost no maintenance. No oil changes, no valve adjustments, no air filters, no spark plugs, no clutch adjustments. The service department revenue model is based on internal combustion engines that require constant attention. When 20 to 30% of the market goes electric over the next decade, service department revenue is going to crater. Dealerships are staring at a future where their most profitable department becomes obsolete. Reason 5. They refuse to evolve, and now it's too late. Here's my personal take, based on my own experiences and conversations with people inside the industry. Motorcycle dealerships are struggling because they spent decades treating customers like crap And now that customers have options, they are walking away. The arrogant salesman who would not negotiate. The finance manager pushing worthless extended warranties with scare tactics. The service department that quoted $800 for a job that should cost $200. The parts counter guy who acted like you were bothering him by asking a question. All of that worked when customers had no choice. It does not work anymore. I have watched dealerships refuse to adapt to online sales even as the data showed buyers wanted it. I have seen them fight price transparency even as the internet made it inevitable. I have watched them ignore younger riders and focus entirely on selling $30,000 touring bikes to retirees, then act surprised when the market aged it out from under them. The industry had 20 years to see this coming, and it chose to do nothing. Dealerships could have built robust online sales platforms. They could have embraced no-haggle pricing and transparent fees. They could have trained their staff to be helpful instead of pushy. They could have invested in building community through rider events, group rides, and educational workshops instead of just treating every interaction as a sales opportunity. Some dealers did these things, and those dealers are surviving, but most did not, and now they are paying the price. The reality is that the traditional motorcycle dealership added value when information was scarce, inventory was limited, and financing required a middleman. None of those things are true anymore. Buyers can research bikes online, find better prices in other states, arrange their own financing, and have the bike shipped to their door. They can get service at independent shops for half the cost. They can buy parts online for 30% less than dealer pricing. The dealership's role has been reduced to a showroom and a place to sit on bikes before buying elsewhere. So where does this go? Over the next 5 years, I predict we are going to see another 20 to 30% of motorcycle dealerships close permanently. The ones that survive will be the largest multi-brand mega dealers with enough volume to operate on thin margins and a handful of small specialty shops that focus on vintage bikes, custom builds, or niche communities. The mid-sized single-brand dealerships in small towns are done. They cannot compete with online pricing, they cannot generate enough service revenue, and the manufacturers are not supporting them. We are also going to see more factory direct sales. Harley, Indian, BMW, and the Japanese brands are all moving toward online configurators and direct shipping. The dealership becomes a delivery center and service provider, not a sales organization. Dealers will make flat fees for prep and delivery instead of sales margins, and the manufacturers will pocket the difference. The used market is going to dominate even more than it already does. With new bike prices staying high and used bike availability increasing as boomers downsize and exit the market, private party sales will continue to grow. Facebook Marketplace, Cycle Trader, and Bring a Trailer will handle more transactions than dealerships within 5 years. Here is the controversial prediction. I think Chinese manufacturers are going to fill the gap that is opening up. When CF Moto, Zontes, and Covey start selling bikes in the US at 40 to 60% below Japanese prices, they are not going to use traditional dealerships. They are going to sell direct online, ship to your door, and contract with independent service centers for warranty work. They will undercut the entire dealer model, and legacy dealerships will not be able to compete. Motorcycle dealerships are struggling in 2026 because their business model, their customer base, their manufacturer relationships, their service revenue, and their refusal to evolve have all collided at the same time. This is not a temporary downturn that will bounce back when the economy improves. This is a structural collapse of an industry that failed to adapt to changing technology, demographics, and consumer behavior. Some dealers will survive by innovating, cutting costs, and focusing on customer experience. Most will not. And honestly, after decades of high-pressure sales tactics, hidden fees, and treating customers like walking wallets, I do not have a lot of sympathy. The market is correcting itself. Buyers have power now. And dealerships that cannot provide real value are being eliminated. That is the reality of 2026. The dealership era is ending, and what comes next is going to look very different. I'm Jimmy, and if this video explained what you have been seeing in your local market, hit that like button and subscribe to Fastest Way. Drop a comment and tell me, has your local dealership closed or is it struggling? What do you think happens to the industry over the next 5 years? I read every comment, and I want to hear your experiences. I'll see you in the next one.